this, right? And we've got a number of parklets and other wonderful places throughout our downtown for you all to be outdoors enjoying your lunch. It's just one example of the investments that Mayor Bowser, the Council of the District of Columbia, and all those who care about the DC are investing to make sure that you all enjoy your time here in the District of Columbia. And as the mayor mentioned, we're doing that throughout our budget process that we've been engaged in over the last several months. There's some highlights like the Housing in Downtown initiative that many stakeholders contributed to over the course of several months, and we passed that on the first vote, and it's going to reflect, I think, a lot of the input that you all have provided to us to make that happen. So you should give yourselves a round of applause. I'm looking out here, and I see some folks who called us. I see others who testified to make sure we got that right, and so we have to make sure we protect that for the second vote. I see former Ward 2 Councilmember Jack Evans in the audience. Good to see you, Jack. I don't see Ward 2 Councilmember Brooke Pinto, but I saw her for several days down in Las Vegas working hard to attract retail to downtown and throughout the rest of Ward 2. And I know that she has not been resting because she has been hard at work. I've been communicating with her today on some things that we have to do at the council to make sure we are supporting the efforts to inject even more vitality into our downtown. And so you can rest assured that there will be action by the council to support this DC action plan, Madam Mayor. And it's absolutely essential that we all, anybody who cares about the District of Columbia, is stepping up to the plate to make sure that our efforts are reflected in the energy that's needed to make sure that we're supporting the revitalization of downtown. I know you all want it. I think you all are starting to see it already, but we obviously have more work to do. I want to thank Dina for her remarks. I thought your remarks were absolutely beautiful. Weren't they? I know all the work that Leona and Jaron and the bids have been doing across the District of Columbia, but I'm going to end, Mayor, with a line from Dina. She said that it's your happiness equals her success. And I think that's the case for the District of Columbia as well. It is the happiness of the residents who live here, the ones who we want to come here to live. It is the happiness of the workers who are putting in efforts to make our city a place that everybody wants to live, work, and play. And it's the work and efforts and happiness of our small business owners who are here laboring to make sure that you have places to enjoy to get goods and services. And collectively, we're going to continue to make sure the District of Columbia is a world-class city and the most beautiful city in the entire world. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be a part of this. Let's get to action.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, time for some action. And so next we want to hear from Leona with comments on her part in leading this effort along with other initiatives in the Golden Triangle bid. Leona. Okay, together? Okay. I was going to bring you up. Okay, what's together?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we are a team. Go ahead, Jaron.
Awesome. We decided we wanted to come up together because we're working on this unprecedented project together as the Golden Triangle bid and the Downtown DC bid. I want to thank you, Councilmember McDuffie. Again, your leadership on the Economic Development Committee has been tremendous. We appreciate all that you have been doing to support efforts that will help to spur the reimagination of downtown DC. So thank you so much for that. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jaron Price. I have the honor of serving as the president and CEO of the Downtown DC Business Improvement District. We exist to help ensure that downtown stays as clean, safe, and economically viable as possible. And we cover 138 blocks that stretch between North Capitol Street to Black Lives Matter Plaza and the area north of the National Mall up to the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. And we share that boundary with our colleagues at the Golden Triangle bid of Black Lives Matter Plaza, which is why it's so important that as we make up that central business district that we are here today working together on the downtown action plan. So we're very excited about that. I do want to say, before I turn to Leona to introduce herself, just a quick round of thank yous. The mayor mentioned that we were at the retail conference earlier this week. I actually just returned this morning and still a little tired, but excited to be here, and want to say there were so many good things said at that conference, and many retailers so excited about getting into DC and wanting to bring their services here to the city. But what I also had a chance to do was talk to some of my counterparts from bids and other downtowns who are going through similar challenges that we are here. And I'll tell you, some of what I heard wasn't so positive. I'll tell you some of what I heard from folks in other cities is that, Jaron, our leadership, city leadership just doesn't get it. We have a mayor that doesn't really prioritize downtown. Or we have city council members or other city leaders who, frankly, are missing the moment. And as I was hearing that, it just made me so grateful to be here in Washington, D.C., the most beautiful city in the world, but more importantly, where we have city leadership that gets it. And Mayor Bowser, I want to thank you for your continued support, continued efforts to help reimagine downtown. Your leadership is just tireless and endless, and we appreciate you for all that you're doing. And I especially want to thank you for the provisions that were in the budget proposal, specifically the housing in downtown and many of the other efforts. It's going to make go a long way in terms of helping to spur that recovery that we need so much. I will turn now to my colleague, Leona Agaritis of the Golden Triangle Business Improvement District.
All righty, thank you. Well, Jaron has basically said it all, but just to summarize quickly, my name is Leona Agaritis, and I am the president and CEO of the Golden Triangle Business Improvement District, and welcome everybody today to our neighborhood. The Golden Triangle stretches 44 square blocks from Lafayette Park and the White House and Black Lives Matter Plaza right up against the downtown bid, north to DuPont Circle and west to Washington Circle. So as Jaron mentioned, our two bids together make up most of what people think of as the downtown. And throughout COVID, we really worked together a lot. And we have worked together during the recovery, and now we are so excited to work together on this next phase of the comeback. I too want to thank Mayor Bowser for everything she has done, for her vision, her leadership, and her strong support for the downtown. And I really do want to reiterate what Jaron said, because I too talked to colleagues from other cities. And, everybody is dealing with a lot of these issues, and not everybody has leadership that gets it. And so we are so grateful, because that really helps move everybody forward. I also want to thank Councilmember McDuffie for everything that he has done. He has been so important in all of this, and really important to bringing people together. And I know that Councilmember Pinto could not be with us today, but she has just been tireless since she hit the ground running in June of 2020. So thank you to everybody.
So I know we are here today to launch the Downtown Action Plan. And as the mayor said, and as Councilmember McDuffie said, it's time for some action. Are you guys ready for some action? Action is needed. So we are so excited to be here. Leona and I want to share a little bit more with you about the action plan and what that will look like and how you can get involved. So I will say, again, we're so excited to be here. We consider this Downtown Action Plan to be a once-in-a-century opportunity to ensure that D.C. Central Business District continues to be the economic and fiscal engine of this city. The city, the capital region, the nation, and in fact, as we heard earlier, the whole world is watching to see what happens in D.C. As we begin this path forward. And we believe it's not just our desire, but it's our obligation to make sure that we develop an exciting and a forward-thinking and an inclusive plan for downtown that will help us to get there. So this is what the Downtown Action Plan will be, and this is what it will represent for the city. Now, downtown D.C. represents many things to many people around the world, but I think the important thing to remember is that our downtown belongs to all of us. It belongs to people. And so that's what we are here to do, is to make sure that our downtown thrives and that it serves people for many, many years to come. And that can't happen without this type of historic partnership and effort between the city, between our business improvement districts, our federal partners, private sector stakeholders, and members of the community throughout D.C. and all 8 wards who downtown belong to as well. Now, through this collaborative effort, there will be a number of different opportunities for residents, businesses, and organizations, and some even in our region, to participate, to provide feedback, and to engage in the action plan process. In addition to preserving and enhancing downtown's history as a place of commerce, culture, entertainment, and tourism, the action plan will also promote ideas that expand the concept of downtown as a cluster of livable, vibrant neighborhoods that are diverse and equitable. Now, as a key component of the action plan, I'm excited to share with you that we have launched our official website, reimaginedowntowndc.com, which you can check out right now. So if you're around this room or around this parklet with us right now and you're interested in how you can plug in, or if you're watching at home and alerts and get more information about this process that is underway. This website will also provide background information and updates as we progress, and it's where the final document and report will go as well. So we encourage you to sign up for that. Leona, I'll turn to you to share a little bit more about what the process will look like.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jaron. And so as the mayor said earlier in her remarks, the action plan is going to move us from vision to tangible next steps. And so I'm here to talk to you a little bit about that. On the broad scale, it's going to align with the mayor's comeback plan. The new OP Public Realm Study, which just kicked off about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and other efforts like Streets for People, which have funded things like this parklet, in which the mayor announced a few minutes ago. This massive undertaking, as Jaron said, is going to be grounded in public engagement, but it's also going to be grounded in expert analysis. And so we're going to start by gathering insights from residents and other stakeholders. The stakeholder group is going to represent more than 100 people from a number of key industries. And so these industries include urban design, real estate, architecture, higher ed, read the comeback plan, business, retail, arts, entertainment, transportation, and providers of services for unhoused people. So we're going to gather insight from residents and these other stakeholders through public webinars, steering committee meetings, focus groups, interviews, and as Jaron just mentioned, our website, reimaginedowntowndc.com. Engagement is going to kick off soon, in 2 weeks on June 15th, with our leadership group. And then on July 13th, our partners at the Federal City Council, which is led by former Mayor Tony Williams, and Kevin, I know you're here if you just want to wave your hand, is going to convene a visioning workshop with local and national and international leaders. You've heard today just how admired a city Washington, D.C. is throughout the world. We will hold 3 public webinars throughout the summer and fall and additional meetings along the way. So all of these insights from this public engagement process are going to inform the economic development study, and that will be the key deliverable from this project. And this study is going to analyze existing data and metrics about downtown. So there are a number of things that are already out there. It's going to conduct additional research as is appropriate. It will create economic models for potential interventions. It will determine the impacts of those interventions, will prioritize accordingly, and then recommend a roadmap for implementation. This is expected to be a document that looks at us both in the near, mid, well, not both, all in the mid, near, and long term, and lays out a roadmap. It is intended to be something that we go back to again and again. We have hired former planning director Andrew Trueblood, there he is, to lead this project following a competitive procurement process. Andrew is partnering with Justice and Sustainability Associates, IDEO, and Kyanite Partners. RCLCO, who is also here today, and HDR, who's here, have been hired to conduct the economic development study. We also selected those contractors following a competitive procurement process. So to take us back to the beginning, as the mayor has noted, this is a once-in-a-century opportunity to reshape our downtown, to make it more resilient and equitable, and to create a model for other cities to aspire to. Thank you very much, and I'm so honored to turn back to the mayor.
Well, aren't you excited about the leadership we just heard from these outstanding downtown executives? So I'm very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you to get this work done and to make sure that all of the deliverables are leading us in a direction towards our robust recovery. So with that, we'll take a few questions. Press questions. Yes.
Could you please give us a sense of the type of metrics that you'll be studying in this economic development study and how you intend to use what comes out of that to kind of guide the breadth of ideas and the types of ideas that you're hoping can come out of this?
Well, I don't want to presuppose what the very capable people who have been named who are going to help us shape the study. I also don't want to get ahead of the pretty robust community engagement strategy that has been described, but I will jump to what we hope to deliver. When we hear back from the various components of the work ahead, we want to be able to inform our investments. So you saw some of those investments in this year's budget discussion, where we're very focused on office to housing conversion, and also very focused on how we animate more places in the downtown. But we know that there will be more to do in the transformation of a downtown that's about 90% commercial and office buildings to what we think will be more residents in downtown DC. I don't know if you want to add anything more about specifics.
Yeah, I can give you perhaps an example of something. The comeback plan talks about universities. So we already know data about the economic impact of universities, right? Both here and in other places. Let's say that we want to create that roadmap. And so starting with what are the impacts, who's here now, who's moved here in the last 8 to 10 years, because we really have had a lot of university interest in the last 8 to 10 years, and very much so in the last 2 to 3 years. What is it that drives their decisions? The ones that are here, what do they like about the District of Columbia? What is it about our messaging that can, to grow it? Is there a way we can develop that vision? And then what do we think the impacts of universities would be on the economy here? Is it increased innovation? Is it increased a pipeline for jobs? Does it bring in other businesses? How many jobs does it create? And so on and so on. So those are just kind of taking you through one example, but the examples are endless. Because the comeback plan is just so broad. But I hope that helps you kind of visualize what my exercise could look like.
So I hear you're joining our City Hall beat. Welcome, congratulations. You have a great group of people to cover, and they have good news. Got it? Good news. All right, let me start with the press. Congratulations, in all seriousness. Yes, sir. Mr. Wright.
Yes, Mayor Bowser, two things. Number one, you've talked about bringing 15,000 new residents to downtown. Now, to some people who are African American leaders and those who are low income, 15,000 does not necessarily mean people of color. Is that true or not? Number two, you are working with the federal city council on this. Again, that's a red flag for some residents in this city, because there's a perception the federal city council does not represent the average Washingtonian. Could you address those two concerns?
Sure. So your first question, is the downtown residential goal race specific? No, it's not. It is Washingtonian specific. But I do want to address what I think is implied in your question, because we have grown our population over the city over the last 15 years, and some people will say that has allowed us to build better schools, to improve public safety and transportation, to be the #1 park system in the world. But it's come at a cost, and some of that cost is displacement. So part of our 5-year economic development strategy, I call it the comeback plan, yes, it talks about growing our downtown residential, but also maintaining our residential base. And so our strategies to keep DC residents here while adding more DC residents involves everything from investing in more local businesses. Our goal is also to increase the percentage of our businesses in downtown DC that are African American businesses, to invest in a Black home ownership fund, and to invest in our neighborhoods. And sometimes this gets short shrift, what I'm about to say. Maybe I need to figure out how to say it better. But we need to make sure that every neighborhood in DC has a full complement of amenities that make people want to live there, because that is what makes DC more affordable. So, do I have a grocery store? We spend a lot of time, and the council member will attest to this, talking about, I gotta tell you, I've been talking about grocery stores east of the river for a long time. This was the best set of conversations I had about grocery east of the river ever, actually. So the idea of telling grocers that they have to come east of the river has changed to, how can we get east of the river? And so that's why funds like our Food Access Fund are so important, so that we have the tools in our toolbox to deliver on the full complement of things that people need in a neighborhood that makes that neighborhood more affordable. What I mean when I say that is, everybody shouldn't think that they have to live in Noma or at the Wharf, or in Brookland, or every neighborhood should have a great school and restaurants and transportation, parks and safety. And that is part of what our strategy also focuses on. In terms of working with different partners, I think what everyone has to realize is that invest in, and this is something that we're going to have to work on together, and I want to speak candidly for a minute. There is this narrative that has developed that it's the business community or it's the community, or that it's developers or it's great affordable housing. And what I have to say is that we're all a community and we all have to work together. So we will be tapping in to the expertise of the federal city council, led by the two-time elected mayor of Washington, D.C. So don't tell me people don't trust Tony Williams, because they do. And the team that he has put together of people who are leaders and have made incredible investments in our city. So we're gonna stand ready to support these efforts, but at the end of the day, James, they are going to be recommendations. They're going to be recommendations that are presented to the three-time elected mayor of Washington, D.C. Yeah. And I don't know how many times you got in there, but a lot. And to the at-large council member and chair of the Economic Development Committee. So just like many recommendations that I receive, I have to use my experience and my knowledge of what's needed across the city and make the very, very best decisions possible. And this process will be no different. Any other press questions? Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'll try to get closer. Hey, it's Heather Long from the editorial board at the Washington Post.
Hi,
Good to
Heather.
see you. Can you give us any updates on what role the federal government will play in this? Obviously, they have a lot of buildings and leases downtown. Have you gotten any updates from them? Are they going to play a role here?
Well, I expect that they will play a role in these discussions, especially the stakeholder outreach. We are following closely the new directive that the Office of Budget, OMB, Office of Management and Budget, has issued to the agencies. We continue to have talks on the political level about some decisions that we think would also be helpful to us. But I have to tell you, we have unleashed our creativity. I have charged everybody with, of course, we want to get our federal workers back, but we acknowledge that there aren't going to be as many as were here before, and we still have to reimagine our downtown. And so I sometimes take the view that we're going to do it with you or without you, rather do it with you, but I've got to do it regardless. So we have unleashed, and we have been, these folks have been thinking creatively with my team for many, many months about how we take our assets and think about the new workforce and how we're going to make sure we have a vibrant and growing and beautiful downtown. And this is not a nice to. And I want to emphasize that. We can't have the city that we have come to enjoy and the nice things and big investments and what I call the gold standard of many programs, especially in the area of human services, without making sure we have a growing downtown. Yes, Sam.
Yes, I think maybe I'm too.
Okay.
I may be too close to that microphone
Okay.
or that speaker, but anyway, I'm just curious. What is your vision here? I mean, are you seeing lots of new buildings going up and stuff like that in downtown by 2028 or whatever? And then another question. Just you said you had a lot of exciting discussions there. Who wanted to do what?
Well, we met with a lot of grocers. You won't be surprised that we have a great focus in Ward 7 where we have some opportunities on Benning Road and Minnesota Avenue where we want to have a new grocery opportunity. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. We also spent some time, something that's near and dear to Councilmember McDuffie's heart, and it is now finally ready. All right, I've driven down North Capitol Street my entire life. You probably heard me say this before, but my mother would frequently say, when are they going to do something with that place? You've heard this, right? She was talking about the McMillan Reservoir. When are they going to do something about that place? And I was like, Mom, you mean me? When am I going to do something about that place? And so my team at DMPED has been working, and I want to acknowledge Sharosh Opatwala, our real estate director, and all of the teams involved. But we're starting to see the work happen. The park that we promised, the recreation center, is happening. And now we can really convince our retailers that it's ready for a grocer. And so we're very excited to re-engage and to facilitate that process as well.
So you were saying, though, but particularly with downtown, so basically it's converting the office space into residential, and you don't see a lot of building and stuff like that going
I didn't say that. What I said was we have to unleash our creativity. And that may mean that some of these buildings look different. Maybe they're not here at all. Maybe they become something else. Or maybe they have a different and another big use that attracts people. We have to replace the number of people in the downtown, whether they're visiting, working, playing, going to restaurants, going to our museums, or living here. So all of those things are important. Leona was right to emphasize our university partners. I see one big one is here, George Washington University, represented, which abuts the Golden Triangle bid. We've seen a lot of interest from universities to be in Washington. We love them. They bring talent. They bring young people that decide to stay here and live here and work for DC government sometimes. So we want to encourage activity like that. Yes, any other press? Yes, ma'am. Okay, let me just finish up with the press and then I'll get a couple of community questions. Yes.
Mayor, I have an off-topic question.
Okay.
We learned from your deputy mayor in testimony at the council yesterday something that was really eye-opening. She said that she had never heard the name, or the DMV, I should say, had never heard the name of this woman who's accused of killing 3 people in a car accident over on the Rock Creek Parkway. And that DMV didn't know that she had 3 DUIs and that her license should be suspended. Well, just what is your reaction to knowing that your agency, DMV, didn't know anything about her?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't know a lot about that situation. I read some reporting. The city administrator called me to give me a briefing. So I'm not as familiar with the communication between the courts and DMV as I'm going to be. And whatever gaps there are, we will fill them. And I actually think this sounds like a technology solution. and a fix that could potentially make us safer on the road. So it will have my full attention. Any other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to clarify one thing.
Sure.
So this entire action plan, would you say it's in service of the specific goal in the comeback plan of bringing in 15,000 new residents, or what is the specific mission that is kind of underlying all of this work, the guiding question?
Yes, a vibrant, robust downtown that contributes to the overall vibrancy of our city. And so that's basically the bottom line. You heard Leona already talk about using our 5-year economic development strategy as a great input into that. But I would say if in the discussions, if more ideas come to life, they will also get a vetting. Yep. You have a question? Nope. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I'm Melissa Kim from WSA 9. In terms of when you're talking about changing these office buildings into residential apartments and things like that, what is the biggest obstacle and challenge there in terms of the infrastructure? Because a lot of these buildings are a little bit older, per se.
I'm not in construction, but it's not easy. They were constructed for people to come in, go to work, and go home. So the access to light and water is a little bit different in buildings that aren't meant for people to live in. But none of that is impossible to make changes, but it is necessary that we make necessary investments. Now, I've talked about money investments, what the council is moving now, but they also need a policy environment that encourages innovation, that lessens the cost of construction, that shortens the time for permitting. And some people would like us to also think about a very old law that makes our buildings a certain height. So there's a policy environment that we also have to consider to say to people. You asked me about challenges. I want people to think about DC first. When I mean people, I mean the institutional investors that help make these projects happen. So the money that we're talking about investing as a city is a small amount of what's needed to transform some of these buildings. So these institutional investors, they're looking to see where's the best place for me to put our money for a return on investment for our investors, for our payers into this fund. So we need to say to them, DC is the best place. They've been saying it for 15 years. DC is a great bet, is the best place. We have a great return on our investment. And so we have to continue to signal. This is where you want to invest in Washington, D.C. So we're going to have our policymakers in line because we're all going to get behind a plan. We're going to have our business community at the table working on ideas. We're going to have our neighborhoods and residents aware and engaged in the process. We're going to work on the policy environment that makes it faster or less expensive to get started and deliver your projects. That's what it's going to take. So I'm going to take a couple of community questions. Yes, sir. And any other one here and one here. Okay, you got it. Yes, sir.
Some of us are concerned about the lane closures and the bike lane installations, and that it may be on a collision course with the advent of the federal workers coming back to work. We already see traffic congestion. If you take 2 lanes and make them 1 traffic lane, that is cutting the number of traffic lanes in half throughout the city. So we see a collision course coming.
Well, I take that as a note. We continue to be very focused on our transportation infrastructure. The council has moved some pretty significant projects related to transportation, transit, and making our roadway network safer. So we will continue to look at that balance and look at it in terms of how we think it is affecting our return to the office. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Ayanta Summers. Thank you so much for your leadership and everything that you've done for the city so far. My question for you is, what are we doing about RFK? What are we doing about after-school programs for kids? And what are we doing about the ATVs and the problems that we have with those kinds of vehicles on our streets?
Okay, I hope that we've seen fewer or less problems. At least I've gotten fewer reports so far this summer, but knock on wood, so we'll work on that. RFK, we have a great opportunity. You've heard Councilmember McDuffie. Why don't I ask the council member to address your question?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for that question. I recently wrote an op-ed talking about how we need to reimagine the site at the old RFK. And what I've been trying to encourage people to do is to really lean into innovation and think about all that could be there. Don't think about it as the old RFK and the sea of parking lots. Think about it as potentially a world-class economic development that includes potentially a stadium, but also includes all the other things that the people of the District of Columbia would like to see in terms of housing, access to transportation, accessibility to parks. We just really have a tremendous opportunity, and I'm excited about the opportunity to hit the reset button, thinking about not just the Washington Commanders, but certainly thinking about the Washington Commanders. If you've been here long enough, you remember the days of the Super Bowls and Doug Williams and Joe Theismann and oh, listen, I love that type of nostalgia. And so I think it's a tremendous opportunity, but first we have to get the federal government and have some great conversations with them to acquire the land, and then the mayor works with the council, myself, the chairman, and my colleagues, and essentially do what the people of the District of Columbia would like to see happen at that site. Potentially.
What's that?
She said water park.
Okay. Last question. Right here. Microphone.
Hello, Mayor Bowser.
Hi.
Hi. I've been a resident of the district for 27 years. I live in Ward 4, about a block away from where the new development is happening at the old Walter Reed Hospital. And I think it's wonderful. It's great. One thing, I want to know if you guys have checked the traffic pattern that's going to happen up and down Georgia Avenue, 14th Street, 16th Street. That's a huge property. Many people will be living there, and I'm just concerned. I mean, for example, Georgia Avenue, the traffic is crazy already, and I just want to know if you guys have have thought about that.
We have thought about it for many years and very intensely. And just keep in mind, there were thousands of people at the height of Walter Reed that commuted in and out of Walter Reed. So the number of residents who will live there is not greater than the number of employees who used to work there. So just kind of keep that in mind. We're also enlivening that roadway network, so now it's not a walled off campus, but it's connected to the rest of the roadway network, and since we've started at Walter Reed, we have also improved and invested in the public transit network in terms of busways. So we really want to, and I don't want to take our mind off of this because the pandemic kind of disrupted this notion that we have a world-class transit system here, and we want people to use it. Everybody can't drive. We're not a roadway network, and nor will we ever be, where everybody can drive everywhere. So that's why we're trying to make our transit system have more frequent service, to make sure it's safe, and to make sure that it's not sitting in the same traffic as everybody else. So that's why we have bus lanes on Georgia Avenue, and we hope to have more and on 16th Street as well. And I'm proud to say that I live close to Walter Reed and have for a number of years. But a new grocer that has been promised to the community, the sign is up. Sometime in June or July, DC residents will have a new Whole Foods. So we're very happy about that.
Development as well. I feel sad for so many of my neighbors that come out in the morning and their 4 tires are gone and the cars are on plastic crates. I don't know if you were aware of that.
I don't
but
know
it's-
what that would have to do with the development. What it
No,
has
this
to.
is a different question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in terms of, it's really bad in my neighborhood. That we
Where do
get
you
up
live?
14th and Van Buren.
Okay, we'll double check on that. I haven't
Yeah,
seen that
it's-
as a hot spot for car theft, but we
It's
do.
not even theft. These people are stealing our tires.
I heard you.
And you come out and your cars are on
Got it.
top of plastic crates.
Thank you, everybody.
We now return to our previously scheduled program, already in progress.